Alright, what's up y'all? Willie here, and today we're going to be going over another Rage DPS loadout. I have been doing a lot of tweaking to it. I can show you two different versions of it, but we've decided to just forego Plasma Wretch altogether. We squeeze more damage out without it, to be quite honest. Regardless of how something looks on paper, by that, in this case, what I mean is how it looks at the sparring target, not necessarily how it's going to perform. Just because it hits hard, we have to keep in mind the variables. You may get interrupted, you may get knocked over, that'll reset your hit counter, that'll reset your escalating might. Somebody else's loadout may just be quicker than yours, so even if you are hitting extremely hard, for instance, when we take a look at the loadout here, Dreadful Blast does hit exceedingly hard. It hits very, very hard. Easily, you know, I've seen it go for 200k on a crit when you hit that third swing. But that's if you hit it before somebody else kills it. So we have to be mindful of these type of things. This is why I took out Frenetic Bombardment. So my loadouts usually have strong elements of single target and AoE damage. You don't necessarily need to be both, especially with Rage. It's hard to make a strong AoE ranged DPS loadout. So let me just show you the numbers of what this loadout looks like. I did take out Channel Hate, but I ended up putting it back in. So I'll show you what the actual loadout that I've been using is, which is this one here, and then we'll do the alternate. So Heat Vision, Channel Hate, Rage Blast, Dreadful Blast, Robot Sidekick. We are going to be running Berserk. Artifacts are going to be Strategist card, Solar Amplifier, and Transformation card, okay? As far as the stat points, we're going to be running Superpowered, Crit, Crit, Might and Power, and I put anything I have left over into Health. So let's go ahead and look at the numbers. I'm going to start with Heat Vision. Just let it get warmed up and get going. Alright, we're going to go ahead and stop there. So you can see their numbers there. It's not bad. This will hang, more or less. It's better than the last loadout, that's for sure. I've been using it a lot, testing it. So as far as Rage DPS, might, when you're playing from ranged, do not expect to be number one, but this will keep you in the running. This will keep you at least hanging in there. This will keep you up there. Good enough. I mean, it's not a bad loadout. It does hit very nice. And you'll still be at the top. You just won't be the top. So don't expect that, but do expect to make it viable and do expect to keep you hanging. So by no means is this a bad loadout. It's definitely very viable. It's definitely very useful. So if you want to play Might with Rage and you want to play from a distance, this is a good loadout to have when you need to switch from melee to range. This will definitely keep your damage up there. So the alternative is not that. So the alternative is going to be Heat Vision, Rage Blast, Plasma Wretch, Dreadful Blast, Robot Sidekick. So how we would do this. Oh, and don't mess it up like I did. Let's start over. So this one looks really good on paper when it's running. reset it for a second. And we'll start fresh. Okay. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and stop there. So you can see the numbers when you actually get the rotation right, because I kind of messed it up. But the rotation is going to be Heat Vision, Plasma Retch, Dreadful Blast, Rage Blast, and back into Heat Vision. But when you get the hang of it, you can get Dreadful Blast going, and you can fire off Rage Blast very quickly after it. So. And it kind of looks similar to clipping a ram with hard light, so. And that is pretty much the two loadouts for range DPS. I was going to hold off on making this. That's how I had a little more time to explain it a little bit better. But I mean, there's really not much to say about it. It's pretty straightforward. These are just two options that you can use. I just found that taking out Plasma Retch, initially, we don't need it. We still get burn damage from the Heat Vision, and while Plasma Retch does add the power interaction, the damage just isn't where I would like it to be. You get more out of it by just doing your rotation straightforward. So this is just a very quick guide on the actual loadout. So as far as the mods here that go into your gear, your tactical mods, we are going to be running max damage, of course, and then Tumbling Master, that is a must every time. There's not really much else that goes into the legs on Rage, so we still keep Plasma Retch in, just in case you decide to use it at some point. Power efficiency, superpowers use 5% less power. You could go ahead and go with Penetrating Strikes on this one. Oh, and then I never changed this out, but there was one for Plasma Retch that goes here as well. This was when I had fire. So disregard the Stoke Flames. It would be another Plasma Retch mod is the only other thing to put in there. Escalating Might in the neck. And I haven't changed this out yet because I've been running Berserk for a few days, but I have not been running a lot of content as a DPS on this character. I've been tanking the last couple of days, so I haven't had a chance to change it, but you would change it to Berserk. And then your Blast Adapter, of course. So that is it, guys. That is a loadout. The only reason I rushed this out is because I'm getting ready to change this character to Precision for DPS. And so we'll be covering that later in the future. I've got to run with it for a while. I've got to test it before I bring it to you guys and present it to make sure that it is going to be viable and I'm not giving you something that's not that good. But this is good. This is good enough. This is what I've tested. I've ran it in the source wall. I've ran it in the duos. I've ran it in, all the latest content. So this loadout specifically, the first one I showed is the one I do recommend over Plasma Retch, but that is more of a preference. I just feel like you get better damage consistently with the first loadout after doing quite a bit of testing and taking it into content. Because like I said, it may look good at the sparring target, but that does not necessarily mean that damage is going to translate into practice, into real time when you're in a scenario and you're actually DPSing in live content. So be mindful of that. Numbers at the sparring target are not everything. You can sit here and hit 2 mil. I can tell you on Wooly, I was getting up to 1.600, 1.700, 1 mil 600, 1 mil 700,000 with that plasma etch loadout. But I was still not where I needed to be in the actual content. But when I switched over to the channel hate build, we saw better numbers even though the parsers were lower, because single target will always look lower than AoE, but it will always outshine AoE. I don't care what anybody tells you, single target will always hit harder than AoE. And AoE is good for ads, it's good for trash mobs, but so is single target, because single target does not split its damage the same way area of effect does. You get the full effect on it. This would be different if we had something like, the bomb from munitions, or mass debt on fire, where they just hit so hard it does not matter. But Rage does not really have that. The only thing it has is Dreadful Blast, so we have to make the most of it. But single target will always outshine if you set your loadout up right. It's just so quick, it hits so hard, you will burn down something and move on to the next one. So you can pick them off one at a time. But if you have a little bit of splash AoE damage in there, that is extremely beneficial, and that's why we use Dreadful Blast. So this is just my recommendation, guys. I really hope that you take it into consideration if you want to play Rage DPS. This is just an option for you. It's by no means the best loadout, but it is good enough to keep it up there, at least how I play. So that's what I got for you today, guys. I appreciate you tuning in. And then I did already show you the stat points, but we'll show them one more time. Super powered, crit, might and power. So appreciate you tuning in. Give me a like, give me a subscribe. We'll be back with precision loadout on the Rage. Probably in a couple weeks. I want to make sure that I've got everything down. I need to get all my mods up. We are going to be changing out Solar Amplifier, and we're going to be putting something else in there. I haven't decided fully yet, but I may go Eye of Gemini. Remains to be seen. I don't want to tell you anything yet. We got to do some testing. So, again, thank you guys for tuning in. Catch you next time. Wooly out.